lead the international community to and put the pressure on UN and Burmese regime to accept donations, aid help, the relief worker inside Burma. This is what Canadian and the Canadian government of Canada can do. And that's a tangible help that we can do, but not just issuing statements. Issuing statements cannot save lives. And we got to get there and help. So, and also at the same time, the Chinese government, as our friends mentioned, we have a traditional close relationship between Chinese and Burmese. Not just at government level, the community level. Thousands of years we've been doing. We're doing the trade and everything. We are good neighbors. We are good friends. Doesn't matter. Forget about the politics, the differences. So Chinese government this is the time that I would like to request Chinese people and the Chinese government to use their friendship and neighbor and influence to tell the Burmese regime to do the same thing that what Chinese government is doing and trying to help the victims inside China. Ask the Burmese regime to do the same thing to help the Burmese victims inside Burma. And then also I would like to appeal to the Chinese government to use their power, their influence in the world community, international community, to cooperate and with the international community in UN and make sure to get through to the victims. As I mentioned, it's not about politics, it's about saving lives. And also, like Olivia mentioned, government of Canada can help both victims in China and Burma. And for example, immigration matter that Olivia already put forward to the immigration minister to expedite family class sponsors. And also she as she mentioned, stop deporting the people from China, earthquake affected area, and also the Burmese people from Canada deporting. That's a thing that at least we can do right away to help the victim side. And also I would like to mention that we're going to have a global day of action tomorrow around the globe, in Europe, in North America, in South America, in Asia. That's a global day of action for humanitarian intervention in Burma. So we will urge the international community and UN to intervene humanitarian aid, get through the victims. And the UN have a responsibility to protect clause. And that's the thing that many people misunderstood, that it's using force. It's not about the using force. It's when the states fail to protect its own citizens. UN has a moral obligation to do that, to save lives. After Rwanda, Canada is one of the foremost champions to promote this cause. Millions of people died in Rwanda. World community failed to protect. And then Sudan, Darfur, millions of people died. UN failed again, very late. And now seems to be international community just issuing statements. I hope that they're not willing to let millions of people, more people die in Burma, just without doing anything, just issuing actions. So this is a global day of action that we'll do together with different communities across the world, in various countries. In Canada, we will have in Toronto, in front of Queen's Park, Queen's Park, in front of Ontario Legislative Building. We gather at 4 o'clock tomorrow, Saturday, May 17. And so that I will urge and that supporter of Burmese cyclone victims, please come up and show that your solidarity with us, and ask the Canadian government, ask your local MP, and also to international community and UN to do tangible work to help victims. Now, hundreds of thousands of people are already dead. More people dying each day. We don't see the pictures, photos, and news because there's no reporters in the affected area. They don't allow even the local people to allow camera, tape recorder, video camera go in there. So that's why we don't see. But you can imagine, and tsunami hit Tsunami went there only 4 kilometers inland. This cyclone, tidal wave 12 feet high, 3.5 meter high, this one went in there and then still flooded size of the northern PEI province, still under the sea water. Tsunami hit and left, receded, but this cyclone tidal wave stayed there. Those are the rice producing region. So that's a horrible. So please help us, and please appeal to the international community to help Burma cyclone victims, as well as Chinese earthquake victims. And also please keep donating, ordering Canadians. And we also on Tuesday evening, 7 o'clock at Lula Lounge, Canadian musicians like Jesse Cook, Jason Collette, they're willing to do something, their part. And they will do the fundraising concert for Burma cyclone victims. And then whatever the collected donations will go to Burma, 100% will go to Burmese cyclone victims. Lula Lounge great sponsor this event. So please keep donating, keep supporting cyclone victims and earthquake victims in both countries, Burma and China.
Can I ask you one final question? Can you just summarize again what you'd like the UN to do and why you think it's their responsibility to move in? Can you just describe that? UN have a moral obligation to save lives. That under the clause responsibility to protect. Now, if the state's government, the country governments fail to protect its own citizens, the UN and international community have an obligation to help. So once we have an agreement on responsibility to protect in UN Security Council, the international aid organizations, relief organization, they can legally, they don't need to get the permission from the host government and go there and deliver the aid. So this is the clause that we need to agree on. And the French government put forward the motion last week, but China and Russia veto it. But I like to appeal to Chinese government and Russian government and all the world community. This is not about using force, or this is not about politics. Put aside the politics. Please save lives, innocent victims. They're waiting for just for purely drinking water and food, basic things, food, water, shelter, and medicine.
UN, for example, could have troops dropping by helicopter food aid, water aid.
Yeah.
Right now.
That's right. And in China, Chinese government drop aid to the remote area affected by earthquake. The same thing, UN can organize, once got the responsibility to protect, in short, R2P, and they can go there using helicopters, drop aid, water and food in those areas. And then now, basically, those affected areas cut off by roads. And most areas can only reach by the air or the boat.
So, Olivia, do you feel as if the UN is just not doing enough and just sitting idly by while people are dying? I mean, how do you feel about what's going on?
Well, it's a long story how we need to reorganize UN and the Security Council, but at bare minimum, the United Nations cannot just stand idle and wait for the squabble, and can certainly drop aid by helicopter, whether it's water, food, shelter. It's done in China. Their helicopter is doing that right now. Why can't the same thing happen in Burma?
Wouldn't they be?
Because every minute it's not invasion. It's not it's not occupying another place, but being able to get the food there so people, children, don't starve. I think that's important.
Couldn't the Burmese government consider it a violation of their airspace?
Okay, just a minute. We'll just take this as the last question for this round, because I've got many speakers, and we can take questions afterwards. So please,
can we just
do this one.
The
last
R2P
question.
thing.
Yeah.
So what's the Canadian government doing to make sure that R2P actually happens?
Well,
are we lobbying? Are we?
The Canadian government, I know the Foreign Affairs Minister have said in the House of Commons several times that we have raised the issue. As to whether there's a sponsored motion yet, no, I haven't seen one. And I think it's important that this debate in the United Nations Security Council as soon as possible. Yes, France has already come forward to say that it's ready to take action, and I hope Canada also take not a passive role, but a proactive role.
Well, you're speaking to everyone on tonight's news. What do you want them to do to make sure that Canada does play that role?
Well,
what do you suggest?
I think Canada has a moral responsibility, and I think the ordinary Canadians, aside from donating generously to both the victims in Burma and in China, can also say to the members of Parliament that yes, Canada can do a lot more through United Nations, through the Security Council.
Okay, thanks you guys. Okay. All right, so I'm going to ask Tenzing to go next.
Good morning, everyone.
So we have Valerie Repka and Bill Coulthard from the Canadian Medical Assistance Teams. Okay.
Bill's on the line in Vancouver, and my name is Valerie Repka. I'm the acting chairperson of the Canadian Medical Assistance Teams. We are a non-governmental, non-religious relief organization dedicated to providing medical relief in disaster situations. We were founded in 2004 in response to the 2004 tsunami and have responded to the Pakistan earthquake as well as to Hurricane Katrina and flooding in Bangladesh. Bill is on the line as the team leader of our team that will be deploying over the weekend to via Shanghai to the disaster zone. We are sending a team currently of 3 doctors, 2 paramedics, a nurse practitioner, and a logistician, as well as 2 local some local doctors, in order to do a full field assessment of the situation, in order to assess whether the need for our field hospital is there. Should this need arise, we will be able to deploy our field hospital, which is fully inflatable, within 20 minutes, and can be starting to see patients within an hour of setup. Bill, is there anything that you wanted to add?
Just to echo some of the comments, can you hear me okay there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to echo some of the comments that the other folks have been making, I just want to reiterate that international governments, when NGOs operate, we operate under the Humanitarian Charter, and under that Humanitarian Charter, international governments, including the United Nations, have legal responsibilities to protect and assist people. And when the relevant authorities or countries are unable or not willing to fulfill these responsibilities, we as nations around the world are obliged, and the countries that are suffering these calamities are obliged to allow humanitarian organizations to provide this assistance and protection. So we prescribe the 2 core beliefs. First of all, that all the possible steps must be taken to alleviate the human suffering arising out of these calamities, and second of all, that those affected by the disasters have a right to life with dignity, and therefore the right to assistance, and that's how NGOs operate. And often, what we run into is that politics get in the way of humanitarian aid. So I would encourage again Canadians to put pressure on the government, put pressure on United Nations to allow these non-governmental organizations in to assist these people in their time of need, and put the politics aside.
Valerie, have you guys tried to go into Burma so far?
We're in the process of getting visas, and we're basically put on hold. We weren't told no, but we weren't told yes.
How does that feel to have these people waiting, ready to go, and not being able to go in there when people are dying by the tens of thousands?
It is absolutely frustrating. Knowing that we have the skills and the resources to be able to help save and improve lives in this disaster situation, and having our hands tied by not being allowed in, it was very frustrating.
I apologize, I can't hear the question. resistance?
The question was how we felt, whether we had a team waiting for Burma, and how we felt about not being able to enter the country.
Well, that's absolutely true. Within hours of the cyclone hitting Burma, we had offered both official and unofficial assistance, and were met with resistance and hesitation every step of the way. And certainly that team is still ready. We have 2 full field hospitals. One's located there in Toronto, another one in Vancouver, and we're certainly capable. We have over 600 volunteers on our database, annual training programs, and we're certainly able to deploy to both areas and have a very effective assistance in those areas.
Do you also feel as if the UN is just not doing enough?
Again, the UN, the UN's position is one of cautious optimism, and needing permission to enter a country is pretty much the most frustrating aspect of this entire endeavor. So having the UN put more pressure on, I think, would be definitely a benefit to the people that require this humanitarian aid.
What would you say to someone here in Toronto who may be reticent to give money to relief for Burma just because they feel like it won't reach anybody?
There are ways. There are ways through the cyclone relief programs, as well as through our programs. We, if we are unable to assist in a country personally, we partner with a local NGO that is able to provide the assistance, and they are the ones that are doing the work on the ground while we help provide the aid from abroad.
A lot of Burmese are in temples. The monks play a central role in the lives of Burmese, and I know that the Burmese Buddhist Association, for example, are looking for support directly to the monks. I know Red Cross there. There are Save the Children. There are different NGOs that are in Burma right now, so the funds will go directly to these NGOs. It's not for waste. Don't think of it as just, oh, the money won't get there and that's why I won't donate. That won't do, because that's not true. Yeah. And every dollar donated to Burma, the Canadian government will match. So we're doubling our effort. That's why I said that every dollar to China, also there needs to be another dollar to Burma, so that the Canadian government would then put in 2. So double the effort.
And as NGOs, we have an obligation to ensure not only that those funds reach the people that need it the most, but that they're spent as effectively as possible.
Like Valerie mentioned, there's a lot of local NGOs. International NGOs also already in Burma. They were doing their own stuff in there prior to cyclones. They have their own volunteers, local volunteers across Burma. So yes, regime refused to issue visas to new relief workers, but whoever existed inside Burma, they're still there. So the international NGOs are coordinating with the local NGOs inside Burma to provide aid. So that's how you don't stop donating because of the regime is hindering the aid, but keep donating. The NGOs will make sure to reach out to the victims. That's their job. They are doing it. They are doing fantastic, and please keep donating.
The bottom line is it's all about cooperation, and regardless of what country you belong to, what regime you belong to, and what culture you belong to, the responsibility is for everyone to be generous and to donate and to cooperate in this humanitarian effort.
Talking about the cooperation, how do you feel the Chinese government welcome your team?
The Chinese government has issued us visas, and we will be departing over the weekend. We have had nothing but a positive experience with Chinese officials in Canada.
I should also point out that we have partner NGOs on the ground
in Chengdu.
Assessments on our behalf, and I should also issue some praise for the Chinese government. The reporting out of the field's been very good.
Yes.
There
we were given
lots of soldiers on the ground and conducting very effective work there.
In essence, we were given some intel really late last night. Bill had spoken with some of the NGOs on the ground using a satellite phone, And it's our understanding that the military, the Chinese military, has absolutely stepped up and is providing fantastic relief work, and they're doing a very, very good job. That being said, although they are doing a lot, there's always more to be done. There are always going to be villages that are not accessible in the immediate sense, and so the international community needs to step up and also help to provide this aid. It is an overwhelming experience, and in my experience in the different disasters of the last few years, burnout is high, and so in the immediate sense, having the Chinese military and the Chinese government working, knowing that they have us as support, I think would be definitely beneficial.
Is this the first team dispatched by Canadian, by NGOs or government to China earthquake area?
Is this the first team to deploy to China?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, including the NGOs.
Yes.
What about other NGOs or
I
government?
can't speak to other NGOs. I'm sorry.
I don't think any other NGOs have gone in since the earthquake happened, right?
Other than the ones that are existing.
There are NGOs already there at the time, right? I mean, there are many Canadian relief workers, doing relief projects, development projects inside China at any given time. But initially, China said they didn't want any international aid relief. It did not want any international workers. They would accept the aid, but not the international workers. But overnight, Friday in China, the government changed its position and said that they would welcome aid workers, and they have already received the earthquake experts from Japan. And they're receiving a team from Taiwan now, and other countries, Russia, Singapore, South Korea, have offered teams. Our position, CCNC's position, is to urge our Canadian government to offer the DART. We really appreciate the CMAT. They are going on their own. They will be the first Canadians to go into Chengdu. So
and we have historically worked with the DART. We were working with the DART team in Kashmir, Pakistan in 2005. We have a very good relationship with them and work very closely with them when we are in disaster situations. Now, we are not part of the government, we're not part of the DART team, but we have a very similar mandate, and that is to alleviate suffering and to help the vulnerable.
Any questions from folks? Thank our colleagues for joining us for this news conference this morning. Just want to, again, just sum up by saying that the Canadian government announced yesterday that they would be matching donations. So it's in your package. There was a statement by the NDP yesterday, and then in answer to a question in question period, Minister Oda made that statement that they would match contributions of Canadians to humanitarian organizations working in Burma and China. So just to sum up, I want to send a message to Chinese community, because there have been many organizations organizing fundraising efforts, and this is really commendable. I've got calls from my chapter in Halifax. They're organizing a fundraising drive. Our chapter in Montreal is organizing a concert next week, Wednesday. I know that groups here are organizing a dinner May 31st. We've got stuff happening all over the place. Just want to remind community groups that are doing this of this development. Your $1, the $1 in donations that you receive can be worth $2 in relief aid, but you have to do this intelligently. Right? I would urge groups to check the CETA website in the next few days. Find the groups that are accredited as the charities, because only those groups that are accredited are going to get those matching funds. Right? So you can make a difference between whether your $100 that you've been able to raise is worth $100 or is it worth $200, right? So we want to remind the groups to do the research before they decide how to proceed with their efforts, and we really commend the efforts. One final point is to also appeal to the community with regards to donations. We are a large community, and there's been wall-to-wall coverage about the earthquake. Really appreciate the excellent work by the media on this, but we need to I would ask community to reserve some of the donation for the victims of the cyclone, right? Maybe split your donations. I think let's work in solidarity with the victims in both countries because we are global citizens. So thank you very much for coming. And